This is Our Rough Draft, a podcast, real talk for real relationships.
Welcome to Our Rough Draft, where we share real stories from marriage, work, life, and the adventures along the way. We'll laugh, maybe get real, and hopefully help you spark some new conversations in your own life.
I'm Denise, the wild, emotional one who loves words and big ideas.
And I'm Tim. I'm the practical level one who fixes what she dreams of.
And this is Our Rough Draft, where we share the stories we're still living. Hi.
Hi.
We're in a new place.
We are in a new place.
Not a new place, like still our house.
A new podcast place.
That's right.
What do you mean to say?
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Me too.
It's pretty cool. It's taken more than I thought it would
Indeed.
to get this little spot ready for a podcast.
But opens up a world of possibilities.
Absolutely.
We don't have to commute to podcast space anymore.
Yeah, especially because you're going to be commuting for a job.
That's right.
So congratulations.
Thank you. Excited.
Yeah, it'll be great. You'll start a new job December 1st.
December 1st. Yep.
Big times.
Yeah.
That's great, which means we can podcast when you're here rather than taking the commute time to go to ASU.
Right.
So that's great.
Yeah. I do feel like we should let the people that work the desk know.
I know.
So
I think we
feel like we left them.
I know. We need to do it at ASU every once in a while.
Yeah.
Because they were such a great crew and they love to see us and we're so excited. So I love people working at ASU. It was a good time.
Yeah.
But this will be nice too to be able to have our own space and do it.
Yeah.
And have our favorite things on the wall. We got a little Sun Mountain action, little Mount Rainier action, Lassie babies, of course, and some of my art. So that's fun. If anybody's interested in weird little crafty art, I do that too. Because why wouldn't you?
Why not?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this is going to be our Veterans Day episode.
I'm a veteran.
Yes, you are. So we will talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And talk about what it means and how that all plays out and all of that. So I wanted to start with a little shout out.
Okay.
Shout out to Coop.
Yes. Shout out to Cooper. Hello, Cooper.
Cooper wanted a little shout out. So there it is.
Yeah.
Our Loop, our middle child. There's a student in one of my classes. Every time she opens her mouth, what she says either sounds like Cooper, reminds me of Cooper, has Cooper's attitude about it. And today I just couldn't. I was like, my gosh, you are so much my child. It was awesome. She's like, is that good? And I was like, it is good.
Fun.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
What's going on with you this week? Anything fun?
I mean, technically I'm back at work right now. So came back after all that PTO and am kind of supporting some things, kind of not. It's this really weird transition period where I feel like I'm not on anybody's team. You know, everybody else got reorged, everybody else got assigned new jobs, new responsibilities, and I'm just kind of over here on the side dangling along. So that's not fun. I guess you asked me if there's anything fun this week. Started the bench for the hot tub area, started building that.
Yeah.
So pretty excited to see how that turns out and eventually have a spot where we can sit and store towels, chlorine, and other hot tub accessories. So
yeah, you were pretty funny when you were working in the garage. You can't work in the garage in Arizona in the summertime.
No.
Can't happen.
Nope.
Can't happen. Can't work outside. Can't
Too
do
hot.
any of it. So kind of lose track of what you have going on in the outdoor environment during summer.
Mm-hmm.
And for us this year, that was May through September.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it was May through when we got back from Italy.
Yeah.
So October.
Yeah. So 6 months of the year was our summer this year that we weren't doing the things outside, which means can't cut wood, can't paint, can't, I don't know, do other things that are outdoor things, hiking, all of that. So you kind of lose track of stuff, but you really lost track of something when you were working in the garage this weekend.
Safety.
No, you were okay. I mean, oh no, you didn't have your phone and I yelled at you about that. You couldn't find your saw blade.
Oh, geez. That damn saw blade. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to cut wood without the right saw blade. And that was, I mean, thanks for helping me, but that was crazy. I completely blanked on it. And it wasn't that long ago that I replaced that saw blade. Like we were talking, I replaced it so I could cut the metal for the screens that we did. So we redid all the screens, the outside screens. So we had to cut all those frames, and I used a metal blade to do that, and packaged my wood saw blade up very nicely inside the package that the metal blade came in, put it in a place that it felt like I was going to remember. And this is a good place, a good safe place for me to keep my saw blade, and couldn't find it. So I found it.
Yeah. After we borrowed the neighbors.
After the neighbor came over and lent me his saw blade. So yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So we just have to get better at that kind of stuff so we don't lose track of our life in between seasons.
Indeed. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into Veterans Day, because it is something that we definitely celebrate around these parts, and to make sure.
These parts being the house.
Yeah. Us. Yeah. And kind of just talk about the meaning behind it, what it means to us personally, how weird and awkward it can be. I just think that, well, let's get into it. So
all right.
I've got a couple questions to start us off, maybe if I can find them. But basically, this idea of celebrating your service, celebrating your time at war. I have a definition of Veterans Day, but I would love to hear yours.
Boy, that's a good question. I think my definition is fairly broad. And I think that it is, I feel like Veterans Day applies to anybody who served in uniform. Now, that being said, I think this is interesting, and maybe I'm going to take some flack for this. I do not think that it applies to all who served in any capacity. And I kind of bristle at the merging or the kind of like, let's bring everybody together. And you know this, but like the ASU salute to service typically was salute to military service. Right. And now the salute to service is we're saluting everybody who served, police, firefighters, medical workers. I mean, the definition, I think, is kind of broadened out. To me, that wouldn't be as much of an issue if the salute to service at ASU traditionally was not timed for Veterans Day, which is what it is. And so I think you risk by broadening the definition, being more inclusive, you risk homogenizing, or I don't know what the right term is, but almost like erasing part of what makes each of those groups special.
Right.
There was recently a First Responders Day, a day to recognize first responders, which I think is critically important. Like, I don't want to minimize any of that service.
Right.
But I think we have to maybe kind of keep things separate so that each group, I think, gets the
recognition.
The recognition, or just the space that they're due.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I think for me, being married to a veteran, and I mean, I remember celebrating first Veterans Day when you had been back from Iraq the first time. And we didn't celebrate Veterans Day when you were serving in the National Guard, because you were still serving. And so that's the other place where it's kind of blurred the lines. Like, this whole salute to service becomes everybody who's currently in. But that's not what, like, to me, traditional Veterans Day is someone who has gone to war or a war-like element to defend this country. And that is a special kind of service that Veterans Day recognizes. And the other place where I get a little wonky with it is the confusion between Veterans Day and Memorial Day.
No, that's always been an issue.
Yeah. And for veterans who often downplay their service, it's even more complicated. Do you want to talk about the idea of, like, when somebody says, thank you for your service?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for your service is such a, I don't know. I struggle with it in different ways. I think I struggle because I don't know what to say in return.
Right.
Like, you're welcome. That sounds a little bit like you're welcome for my service. And I'm not trying to be that person. But I also think that I just think there needs to be real conversations. And I think thank you for your service allows us to recognize people, or allows us to feel like we're recognizing people. I'm recognizing you for your service without having to understand that service, without having to understand anything about what you did, who you were. And I think that's a real loss. I think that, like, a good example would be the World War II veterans and how there was that last minute scramble before the World War II veterans started to kind of cease to become a group anymore.
Yeah, age out.
Age out. And there's this mad scramble to preserve their stories. And people are running around interviewing all these World War II vets and trying to make sure that those stories are written down or recorded. And I think that's important. I think the same thing kind of happens with maybe this group. And I think it's easy to say thank you for your service without having to understand the story, but then the story goes away. So I guess what I would prefer is, if you're really appreciative of somebody's service, know and understand that service. Now, you may not have an opportunity to. I mean, you go to a football game and they're like, well, all the veterans stand so we can clap for you. And you stand and everybody claps and somebody says, thanks for your service. Like, you're not going to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with them about your service. Like, that's not the appropriate time. But I think if you know a veteran, if you know of a veteran, if you have an opportunity to encounter a veteran in a setting or a situation that makes sense, I think it's worthwhile to understand the story. And it doesn't have to be this deep, long thing, but I think it needs to at least be like, what did you do? Where'd you go? What was your job? Like, tell me more about that so I can at least understand that part of it. Otherwise, thank you for your service just becomes a bumper sticker, and it's no different than the yellow ribbon tied around a tree. Like, it's very easy to show your support, but I don't want your support as much as I want your understanding, I think, for me personally. And this is just me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that because of that, we have over time really talked about like how awkward it is for you to stand in those moments, because it feels like tokenism versus like, let's really get to know these people and understand and know the stories. I think about with my own like biological family, my grandfather was a pilot in World War II, and he was so proud of his time saving the world. Like, they flew so many missions over occupied
Europe.
And literally saved the world.
Yeah.
And he was only in the military that one tour, which is so fascinating to me after being in with you for 21 years and what that means. But it was such a defining part of who he was. He always wanted to talk about it. I think about my dad and Jacob in Vietnam, and Jacob, my mom's best friend, and he was infantry like you in Vietnam. And my dad was a pay clerk in Vietnam. And my dad always would joke about it like that. Like, yeah, let's talk about my service. I made sure everybody got paid, which is important. And he still went. Yeah. He was still away from his family in Vietnam, not as risky as Jacob's tours, but still risky and worthy of knowing that story.
Yeah. 100%. Because I think, I mean, the stories, even for people that did similar jobs, I think the stories are still different. And I think those stories are individual. I mean, you know much more about storytelling than I do, but I think everybody has a story to tell, regardless of who you are, what you've done, you have a story. And I think, to me, one of the worst things would be there's nobody there to listen to your story, or there's nobody there to coax your story out of you. And I think that's an important part where it's sometimes difficult. I mean, like, I don't talk about my service very much because I don't like talking about myself.
Right.
But I am more than happy, and I love answering questions, and I actually love talking about it. But I would never start the conversation. So I think there has to be people around you that coax those stories out, just like your dad. I mean, he still has stories to tell.
Yeah.
He still did stuff. He still served.
I mean, he golfed a lot.
I mean, but that's a part of it. And I think that that's almost, not almost, I think it's just as important, because especially in a situation like that, like there was this, you had the people that were doing the actual fighting.
The juxtaposition of it, right?
The juxtaposition is really, really fascinating. I mean, the fact that your dad was like handing out pay, and then I'm going to hop in, a car, and I'm going to go golf for a little while. Like, that is incredible. The juxtaposition between that and then what Jacob was going through, night ambushes out in the jungle, that type of situation. And I think they're important things to make sure people know about.
Well, and I think it also plays into going into the military. There are jobs for everybody. Yeah. It can be a fit for everyone. I know that it's interesting. I hope you cannot hear our dogs from under the door, but like everybody has a role to play in making this country really vital for a long time. And military is a part of that. And I think oftentimes, really starting with the Vietnam generation, that service wasn't appreciated.
Yeah.
And so I think people say thank you for your service to make sure that people feel appreciated. We don't want it to be like Vietnam was.
Yeah.
We want to recognize you, see you, all of that. But that, to your point, like take it a step further.
Yeah.
And make sure that you're hearing the stories. I am going to have to figure out the temperature in this room. But that's okay. We can figure it out. The hot lights of fame. No, sorry. I digress.
Wow. Yeah. Where did that come from?
I just like to have a little fun, Tim, when we have big topics. So we were talking about the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day also. So I have something that's probably as controversial as what you were saying about combining the days. I am going to talk about ASU also and salute to service and say—
Is this a hot take?
It is a hot take. And I want to lay the foundation of how much I love Pat Tillman. Like, he was this adorable 17-year-old from San Jose, came from Jake and Roseanne's neighborhood, came to ASU, was the backup for Kendall, and so was just this young, adorable little surfer boy showing up at ASU, and I loved him. And I was so proud that he chose to go into the military after 9/11, and we were just so enthralled with that story. And then when he lost his life serving, that was such a critical and pivotal moment for our family, because it was a connection that we had, and it was somebody we lost at the same time you were serving. And there was a lot going on in the world. Dick Cheney passed away this week, so I think I'm a little emotionally heightened. I did not love that man. So there was a lot going on, and I love the work that Marie has done after Pat's death and creating the Pat Tillman Foundation. I love the work that Doug et al. Did down here for the run. I love it. And when we tie Pat's story to Veterans Day, we're making a mistake.
Say more about that.
There are people like you who served and are proud of their stories, and they don't, I imagine, I think we've had the conversation, you feel like your story doesn't measure up to somebody who died in service. Memorial Day is big around here, and we are very clear that it is about the people that we have lost. And we say the names and we talk about them, but Veterans Day isn't that. That's Memorial Day. And so and I know it's the Pat Tillman Veteran Center at ASU because it's funded by his memory and all of that. And it's really, really good and doing really good work for veterans. And Pat wasn't a veteran in that regard. He was a soldier that we lost in war. And I think when you are constantly talking about his story, it doesn't leave space for everybody else's stories.
Yeah. Should I respond to that?
Sure. What do you think? Do you think I'm crazy? I mean, I think it's sacrilege to talk about Pat not being the chosen one here in Arizona. And for good reason. He did really good things and was a really quality human who tragically passed away. And in that spirit of service, we've gone on to have really good things for veterans in Arizona. And none of that is diminished by what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think, wow, I think there's so much there. I don't disagree. I think that ASU as an institution, which we both love, we're fairly passionate about in our family, I think there's kind of a little bit of a myopic focus on it. And I think that you miss a lot of other stories. You miss a lot of other people's service and sacrifice. I think the thing that rings true for Pat's story in a lot of people's minds is gave up a lot, right? Walked away from his NFL career making millions of dollars to become an E4 in Ranger Battalion, making shit and facing danger and XYZ. Like, I think that it's a definite made for TV moment. And I think that that has captured the hearts and the minds of a lot of people, and rightly so. But what makes that sacrifice any more or less than somebody who doesn't have the fame and the fortune prior to going into the military? What makes it any less impactful that somebody that decided to join the military came back mentally or physically or both scarred? So I mean, I think there's a lot of other stories out there, and I think certainly there's places where they get their due diligence and their attention. But I think at ASU in particular, I think sometimes when we decide to make Veterans Day about Pat, it diminishes overall.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, like I think you've said that outside this room,
which I'm doing because we have
it's a little bit controversial. So
yeah. And I think that I know his story and legacy well enough that it would make him uncomfortable too. And that's the piece of it, right? Like there are these self-sacrificing humans who go and do amazing things, not for the glory, not for the story, but for what it does for them. And I think he would want to know more people's stories.
I think so. And I mean, I think that was him in a nutshell. I think that it was obviously something that was so important to him that he was willing to completely change the trajectory of his life to go and do this. And I think that that's admirable. But I think service in general is admirable. And I think that service, and this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. I mean, regardless of how you serve, service has always been important in our family. That's what we taught our kids. That's what we believe in as adults. I mean, just serve somehow, give back something. And I think that spirit of service is important. And I think that he felt that spirit of service, obviously, and went off and did the thing that he thought he could do to serve.
Right. And I do think that the foundation does a fabulous job with the Tillman Scholars and getting their stories out there. So I am not, again, diminishing any of that. I'm just saying on Veterans Day, I would like it to not be about Pat. That's it. Let's tell all the stories of all the veterans who are current students at ASU, graduates of ASU. I have one in my class right now. Shout out Jake, who's awesome. And he is a veteran. He served most of his time up in Alaska and is now living here and getting his teaching credential. And it's just awesome. And his story and what he went through in those first couple of days that I had him in class, like I could see it in his eyes. I'm like, do you want to talk about it? And we have. And I think veterans are just looking for that audience who wants to hear their story and make a connection.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I would never presume to speak for the entire group of veterans, but I think for me, not just to know the story, but to understand the story.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big deal. I think that in order to know, you have to understand, or vice versa. You have to understand in order to know. I'm not sure which comes first, but I think it's more than just I hated this question when I got back from the first tour, and like people would say, "So what was it like?" And like,
it was 545 days of not being with my family. Which day would you like to hear about?
Well, that question, I mean, you're talking about a topic that's so broad. It's like saying, so what's space like?
Yeah.
Like we could sit here for years and talk about it, right? And I think that is, I think it's an important part of the overall, not just, again, thank you for your service, but like ask some questions, but be willing to listen to the answers and be willing to maybe invest a little bit more time. If you truly want to know and you want to understand, then it's going to take some time to get there. Because you can't just say to somebody, so what was it like? Or tell me about your service. There's a lot there, and people have feelings about it. And I think that those feelings, those thoughts, those emotions, like all of that is part of the story as well. But again, you have to be willing to ask the questions, but you also have to be willing to listen to the answers. And you have to make space and create trust for those answers to be genuine and authentic.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes what you get is, hey, so what was it like? Well, I'm not going to tell you all the bad shit. I'm not going to tell you all the things that
not in the first meeting or the first conversation.
Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you the things that might make you question me as a human being. Like we've talked about the moral dilemma sometimes of what you see, hear, feel, do, experience in the military, and how that is juxtaposed over who you are as a person. So if you want to sit and talk, you might get a very superficial answer from me in the beginning. But if you're willing to dig deeper, if you're willing to listen more, if you're willing to understand, if you create that environment of trust, you might then start to open the story up, and you might start to hear some of those more genuine conversations. But you're not going to get that in a tell me what it was like kind of question.
We joke around here about getting your veterans package, the t-shirt, the hat,
the bumper sticker,
all the things that say this is when and where I served. But I think that's a part of it, right? Like you don't feel comfortable like walking around with your story on you so that people like tell me about it, because they're then not like engaging in the way that we were just talking about. But I do think that there's a lot of veterans who do wear their hats of where they served, to think about the people they served with, and to have the opportunity to maybe connect with somebody who has a similar story. And so I've always been pro, like, yeah, let's talk about it more than I think you have been.
Yeah, I think for the reasons I just talked about, like, I think it's about, just like you wouldn't share your most personal, deep things with somebody that you just met at a party, it's the same type of situation. That relationship has to develop. There has to be trust that's built. There has to be this bond, maybe, emotional safety, whatever the term is that you want to call it. So I think that that's an important thing. But on the flip side, I think that's it, or what I should say is, I think that's what I need.
Yeah.
That might not be what everybody else needs. To your point, if I'm wearing a hat and a t-shirt and I got the bumper sticker, clearly I want you to know that I'm a veteran. I've served in some capacity. Probably want you to ask me about it, and I'm more than happy to talk about it and tell you. They're just very different people. Yeah. So one is not right and the other is wrong. That's not how it works. It's just two very different people with probably very different experiences in the military, choosing to approach that post-service environment in two very different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about the numbers before, but it was something like less than 1% of the population serves in the military. Mm-hmm. Even then, when you then apply that to how many veterans we have, we are losing the World War II veterans at a historically fast rate because they're aging out of life.
Well, and Vietnam veterans. We lost your dad, we lost Jake. I mean, we're starting to lose that generation as well.
Yeah, and the toll that war takes on your body, and long term, right, with my dad and Jake both, like heart disease and cancer, like those are some direct tiebacks to their service. I think about just what it does to your body, and navigating that. We have recently been navigating that whole VA experience, which is hard, harrowing, to show up at the VA and see other people there who are struggling to get benefits that you're due. But it's weird, right? So let's talk a little bit about taking advantage of the veterans benefits, not just VA, but free dinner at Applebee's on Veterans Day.
Which we tried one
time
and never again.
Yeah. I just saw that Four Peaks has barbecue on Veterans Day, until it's gone, and they open at 11. So I feel like maybe we'll try a Veterans Day meal again.
I think, that would be worth it.
But I do think it's a weird thing, right? All these Veterans Day come in and you get this free meal or you get this free thing only on Veterans Day. Like they don't necessarily honor it the rest of the year. We went somewhere recently that had a Veterans Day or just a veterans discount. And they literally just they took our whole receipt and just took the % off of your own meal. Not even off the whole receipt. Do you remember that?
I do.
And it's weird because we don't usually be like, hi, we've got a veteran here. Can we get the discount? Like, we don't do that. But somehow she recognized that you were, or something was going on. But then it was like, let me give you $1.50.
Yeah.
It's just a weird concept.
I think it ties back to the thank you for your service. I think I don't want to question anybody's authenticity or genuineness when they say that, because that is just not I am not saying that there's a right and a wrong way to do it, because that's not true at all. However, there are some things that I think objectively feel very tokenish. we support veterans and we're going to give you a discount on your meal, but just your meal. And if you guys happen to split that appetizer, then we're only going to take a portion off of what you ate. Like, it's just a very, like, it just feels very weird because you'll say we offer a veterans discount and hope that that buys you good press. But at the same time, you're over here nitpicking, you know, dollars and cents. And it doesn't make any sense.
I feel more comfortable like supporting veteran-owned businesses.
Yeah.
Like that feels more authentic to me.
Yeah.
So we do that. But let's shift gears again and let's talk about Sheepdog. So last year, I don't know, it's coming out. So
I feel like last year.
I feel like
last spring?
Last spring, maybe. I don't know. We saw it so many times. So there is a new movie coming out, wide release, called Sheepdog, and it is fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah.
Telling the story of veterans. And you can Google it and you can hear them tell it in their own words about like how they got to this movie and the 10 years it took to make and why it mattered to them. But Stephen and Matt, holy shit, they did a good job.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it, like what you thought, like why it mattered, or what about the movie was so good?
I think
it was so good.
Yeah, it's very good, and I think there's many different things that you could take away from the movie. So, quick synopsis for those that aren't familiar with it. It's the story of one veteran in particular, but him and his buddy who come back from combat and struggle with getting back into society and struggle with what it means to come back home and struggle with what they did and what they saw and how that's impacted them and how that's affected them. And obviously in very negative ways in the movie. I mean, you know, and like a story of struggle, but then redemption through community and connections and how those things come together. So I think there's a lot wrapped up in that. I just think they got it right. Like, I think they didn't present it as a like heroic struggle. They didn't present it as you're so broken and we should take pity on you. It just was a simple, like, just I felt like on the surface, a fairly simple illustration. But for those that have been there or have lived with people who have been there and kind of understand the deeper meaning, like the things that happen and the struggles that they show in the movie, I think are very real. I think the biggest thing that it illustrates is you can come back from it. And I think that it illustrates the fact that, you know, the impact that that community has on you, community being the people that are around you that care about you and for you. In this case, the VA therapist that would not let the title character or the main character get away with shit and not do the work to figure out his struggles, kept at him. The fellow veteran who, you know, although from a different era, from the Vietnam era versus the current GWAT era, you know, shares struggles, shares those similar things, those challenges in coming back, and how that became somebody in the community, how ultimately the people around him, the main character that wanted him to be successful, rallied around him and helped him through the struggles as well. Like, there's just so much there. And I think that it just did a great job without being overly dramatic one way or another, not like overly patriotic and I'm due and I'm owed all of this, and certainly not overly dark and depressing and there's no hope for you and all veterans are broken, but just did a very good job of telling a story. So I was really appreciative that they did it, and it was a great movie.
There are two things that I really love about it. One was running alongside the story of the veterans coming back was that the business in town shut down. And we talked about this, I think, in a different episode, but that idea of when you're a veteran and life is hard, right? Like the combination can be deadly.
Yeah.
Right? Because you come back one way, often broken and needing to do work. And then other things in life are falling apart around you. Mm-hmm. And then it just piles on top of each other. Mm-hmm. And how do you navigate that? That was really subtle, but beautifully done.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think it's the fact that when you struggle, one of the big things you need is stability in something, some aspect of your life. If it isn't your family, it's work. If it's not your family and it's work, it's your friends. If it's not like, but somewhere something needs to be that stake in the ground that you can rally around. And in that situation in the movie, losing that thing that's paying the bills, putting food on the table is just one more example of how you just can't win. It's just not working. And the danger in that instability.
Yeah. And then the other thing that for me that was just really remarkably well done in the movie was the therapy and the VA and really the talk around post-traumatic growth. In my world, in the world of research and resilience and all of that, that is such a key thing that we talk about, we work on, use. It has been something that we have really kind of leaned into for a lot of years about how do we take this experience that we suffered through and have something good come out of it. And it isn't easy. It isn't fast. And the movie got that right. And there's this piece also, the emotion was right throughout the movie. The emotion of a mom who had lost her son, the emotion of buddies, the emotion of father-in-law, son-in-law, like the emotions which we all stuff and hide and put away and try not to experience in dark moments, they pulled out and like laid bare in the exact right ways.
Yeah, it felt like it.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great movie. I thought very highly of it, and I hope everybody goes to see it. And I hope it, and not just that, I hope that everybody goes to see it and it sparks conversation.
Yes.
Because it's not enough just to see it. Use it and use the things that it shows and the questions it asks and the things that it makes you think about, and use that as a way to spark conversation with veterans in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't Google when it's coming out, but I'm just so excited that they worked so hard traveling the country, talking to veterans, learning the stories, seeing the patterns, writing the and then going on the tour to be in all of the film fests and get it out in front of people. And it worked. And so exciting. And I think Cooper saw it with us when it was here in Phoenix, maybe. We went and saw it in Sedona. We went and saw it in San Diego. Thatcher saw it in San Diego with you. So yeah, the whole Waters family give it big thumbs up and everybody should go see it. So
for what that's worth.
Yeah, it's worth a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will put the links to that as well in there. And if you are a veteran and you want to be in the Hollywood scene, Stephen and Matt are always, Stephen most specifically, really focusing on how does he also employ veterans.
Yeah.
And so in the different jobs in Hollywood, like how do veterans come back and be able to be in that line of work? And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there was a number of veterans that worked on Sheepdog, the movie.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because both Stephen and Matt, the two main drivers of the movie, Stephen Graham and Matt Dallas, are not veterans themselves.
Right.
So, which I think, to your point, is one of the remarkable things about it and how much it gets right because of the care they showed in telling the story correctly and highlighting and illustrating the experience. And I think there was a lot of us veterans that walked out of those screenings at the film festivals feeling like we could all identify with at least a portion of what happened in the movie. And it's, you find your thing and you're like, oh yeah, that resonates really strongly with me. And that shows how much time and energy, how much care they put into telling the story.
Yeah. I'm really happy about it. So awesome. Okay. What else about Veterans Day do we want to talk about? Anything else?
I think we've already said it, but I mean, for me as a vet, I think it doesn't have to be a day.
Yeah.
I mean, Veterans Day is a great opportunity to recognize the veterans that are around you and to understand and know their stories, but don't let that be the only day. One day is not enough to tell a story. One day is not enough to illustrate the breadth of experiences that veterans have from the branch that they served in, the job they did, the things they saw, the friendships that they made, all of the things that happened to them in the military. It's not just about one day. It can be about so much more. So yes, it's fine to recognize people and to thank them for their service on that day. But if you really truly want to know, then take the time to understand and have it be more than just one day.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Henny. Good job.
Thanks.
That was a good wrap up. Very cool. We are nearing the end of kind of season 1. We have a few more episodes to go to get us to the holiday break, and then we will wrap and take a little bit of a time off and then come back in January with some new episodes. So between now and Christmas, I think there's New Year's episode. If there's anything you want to hear from us, we are taking requests, and we will weave those into the next few episodes before we take that break. Pretty exciting to do this, and I'm glad that you and I are making the time to do it.
Agreed.
So for Veterans Day, go out and find a veteran and see if you can ask a really meaningful question that gives them time and space to respond. I often what's a story that you're thinking about your time in service that you would be willing to share with me today is a great place to start.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's, and you'll find it gets easier and easier. We're not a scary group.
No, mostly good people.
For the most part. I mean,
most days.
Some of us are dirtbags, but whatever.
No, not at all. All right. So thank you for being here. Continue to like and share because that really helps us to get our stories out into the world. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody.